Let's see who's sponsoring tonight's Hazmat Guys Roundtable. Hazmat 101 Consultants. Hazmat 101 Consultants and their instructors can provide quality consulting and virtual or in-person hazardous materials training for your agency. Owner and lead instructor Bob Cascignano is also available for lecturing at your fire or hazmat conference and has in fact done many speaking engagements across the country. Visit their site at www.hazmatconsultants.com or email Bob Cascignano at bob@hazmat101consultants.com. For over 20 years, K&R Plaques have had the pleasure of helping clients choose awards for the people they want to honor. Their state-of-the-art equipment allows clients to design, customize, and personalize the awards they choose for that special someone. With one of the largest selections of plaques, awards, trophies, and clothing apparel, they can deliver quality products to satisfy any customer needs. No order is too big or too small. Visit their website at www.knrplaques.com or email at sales@knrplaques.com. Responder Training. RTE is the leading company in delivering propane training along with emergency response equipment. Responder Training has many propane flaring kits, water injection kits, accessories, and replacement parts available. They also sell the only commercially available 1-inch propane flare kit, appropriately named the Dragon Slayer, because size does matter. Contact our good friend, owner instructor Ron Huffman for more information. You can reach him at 765-524-4848. You can email Ron at respondertraining.rdh.gmail.com or peruse his website at respondertraining.com. Northeast Hazmat has your supplies for leaks. Easy vac pumps, stingers, hoses, rupture seals, and now carrying fire blankets and hazmat apparel. If you'd like to sponsor the show and help keep live hazmat conversations coming in the future and help send at least one lucky participant to a national level hazmat conference, send an email to bob@thehazmatguys.com and he'll send you the information. Thanks a lot. Now on with the show.
Hey, everybody.
Wow.
Mike got his face mask on. Just hide behind that. Welcome back to another monthly episode of the Hazmat Guys Roundtable. Joined as always by Bob Kosh, Jay-Z, and the irreparable and hidden Mike Monaco.
What's going on?
He's so special. He's got two faces.
He showed up just in the nick of time.
Just in the nick of time.
That's awesome. So there he is. Look at that handsome putum. So big episode. We got a lot of stuff going on here, especially the what do you call it? Sweepstakes, I guess you would call it.
Scholarship,
baby.
scholarship.
And so I'm going to put that into the comments section. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell anybody in the hazmat community. All you have to do is put your name and a couple ideas for a show, and you're entered to a drawing, and we are going to be giving away two admissions to the 2023 Baltimore conference. And in addition, we're giving out $500 of walking around cash where you can do whatever you want with it. So you're going to get in the door, and if you choose to use that $500 for travel, for a hotel, for hookers, whatever, you're entitled to do with what you want to do it with. So by all means, and you'll also be coming to the party that we have every year in the Hazmat Guys room, which is an escape room. You cannot get out.
You can't get it.
You can't.
You can come in. You're not leaving though. So, and also I just found out that
this year they're going to stabilize the balcony too. I heard.
Yes, well,
for the amount of people that were out there.
This year we just lined up a major sponsor, and so we're going to have even more stuff in that room. So there's also, I believe, 2 home games for the Orioles on the 9th and the 10th. So there is 2 games, and barring rain like last year, we are going to have quite the little soiree, as they say. So I'm going to put it in there while everybody's yapping. But what's going on, guys?
Well, let's
Whole
see.
lot of nothing.
Mike's got that mustache. You know, he's starting to get into R3 modes, I think.
I am in your 3 modes.
Are you there already?
I am there already. I am officially on the unemployed list.
The whole
Yeah.
board.
You retired?
Yes, I did.
Hey!
Good for you.
Yes, I
That's
did.
awesome.
Yep.
Welcome to the 1 check a month club.
Yeah, salute. Fixed income, baby. Here you go.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Trying to have a little bit more time with the kids and focus on teaching. So
Good for you.
Very good.
Good for
All
you.
right. Well, you completed got a full deck now. Or
yeah,
full
it was
hand,
that. It's
full house.
my timing is all off. I was at the early bird special at Denny's, and then to try to rush, it was just the timing just didn't mesh.
That's all
Now
right.
you
That's
gotta
all
come-
right.
now- you got to come to Florida where all the retirees come to die.
Yes. Everything goes to die in Florida.
Ay.
All right.
Mine as
Good
well.
for you, Mike.
Mine as well.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations. Very good.
So
Yeah. So tonight's topic, things. No.
things that should not be.
Yeah. Bob, why don't you kind of go through it, because I think you have a really good, feeling on this one.
Yep. So first off, you all have to stay tuned if you want to know if you won at the end of the show, because that's when the big announcement's coming.
Did ours go in?
Think so.
We're gonna win. That's why.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
I just want to make sure that we're.
Yeah.
I just
that
want the
name's-
5
that name's-
bills.
Well, this is going to be pretty legit, because we're going to be showing the deck, man. We're going to be actually showing how each one wins, and the names and all the jazz. So yeah, we're going to have fun.
Good stuff. All right. So without further ado, how this came about was one of the classes we've been teaching is an ops review class, and I was asked about it. The Reader's Digest version is, could I put something together down and dirty, meat and potatoes on basic stuff, because a lot of departments are putting an air monitor on their first arriving units. And it's really the first arriving units that set the building blocks for hopefully will be a successful outcome and not a disaster. So with that in mind, one of the main calls and main reasons why they're doing this is gas odors. Okay. There's others about, for IDLH after fires and all that. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole right now. See me in Chicago this week or Baltimore in a month, and we'll talk more in detail. But with this particular subject is these first arriving units are getting there. And I'll give you an example. I'd say a fairly large metropolitan department went to a gas odor at an apartment building, and the caller was caller A, let's say, apartment A, Alpha. And they got there and they turned the meter off for apartment A, only to be called back 2 hours later from another apartment and come to find out the gas leak was actually apartment D on the opposite side of the building.
What is this, like a square?
Yeah, just like a square.
With a center staircase?
Center stairs, yep. 4 on the bottom, 4 on the top. Through and through. And I'm sorry, not through and through. And so you had basically 8 apartments. And what
they're mirrored apartments then.
Yep, mirrored apartments. So what they ended up doing is they turned the meter off to the caller without doing any air monitoring. And this particular unit had a 4-gas meter because of their specialty, which was not hazmat. And they turned the meter off and went back to the house. A couple hours later, they get called back from a different apartment to find out that the leak was actually coming from an adjacent apartment that they never investigated. They never did air monitoring, and all the readings were so high, all they needed was an ignition source, and they would have blown up the building and killed at least 20, 30 people.
Wow.
So they pushed the hazmat easy button, which kids out there, there's no such thing. Okay. So what we're trying to do is talk a little bit about what should have happened and what you might want to do. One of the first things, it always starts with 911. What is the dispatch telling you? And we all know that dispatch is only as good as the information they get. Okay. So start from there and work your scenario out. When you arrive on scene, if you get an odor from a captain so strong that you think, oh my God, we've got a huge leak, you can't just turn off one meter. You probably need to look at all of them. So go ahead.
There's a question in there. What time of the day was this call?
Like 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon.
That was the beginning, and it progressed through the night.
And it progressed into evening a couple hours later. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Sorry.
No. Thanks for it, because I can't look at that. And
That's all right.
Thank you,
Stay
sir.
in the
Thank
zone.
you, sir. In the zone. So one of the things that we're trying to impress upon people is, first off, basic air monitoring strategy and tactics, especially for those first arriving units that are not hazmat technicians, because hopefully they've been trained on how to properly use their metering devices. So what we're trying to get people to do is, it's fine to go to the meter and have somebody staged. Don't just arbitrarily turn the gas off. Number one. Number two is, when you go up to said apartment, let's just say apartment A Alpha, for instance, what do exterior doors have that interior doors don't have? Weather stripping.
Oh yeah, I was going to say they're thicker, they're heavier, they're fireproof. They're
people. I know where you're going, but they have weather stripping. So if you're using your meter and you're getting a reading through the weather stripping, you've got something significant behind there. Now, that begs the question: where do I start doing my metering? And am I on air when I'm doing my metering? So one of the things that we've talked about in the class is that if you have a meter in your hand, you need to have a mask on your face. Now, there's a lot of reasons for that, and this isn't an air monitoring class, but we can talk about that later. So doing your air monitoring, your proper air monitoring, Ben, if you could pull up that picture, please. You're starting down low, even if it's natural gas, okay? We want to start down low, 30 seconds at the bottom, 30 seconds at the mid-level, and 30 seconds up high. Now, somebody said, well, it's natural gas. You should start up high. So, well, here, think about this. What's going to hurt me? The things that are going to reach out down at the bottom that I can't escape quickly. Think of it like a fire. You've got fire rolling over your head. You can duck down, you can escape, right? But if I have something down at the bottom, I need to look at that a little bit more closely, because that's gonna be my harder area to escape from. And if it is natural gas and I'm getting readings down low, that tells me that behind that door, I've got a significant amount of product behind there.
Well, but that's just assuming that what the caller told you is the correct information from the beginning.
Exactly. So the other thing too to consider is that when we're doing this air monitoring, like I said, we're going to have somebody staged at the gas meter, but do we want to shut the meter off, or do we want to control electricity first, ignition sources? Which is worse? Which would you rather do?
We don't generally ever control ignition sources. We shut the gas off first.
Okay.
If we have the place evacuated, we shouldn't have a problem with anything inside, for the most part.
Well, I think we're talking about the operation. They didn't even get to the point of controlling electric, because they didn't even realize that they had an area where there was an LEL. Are you saying in the process of the operation, we discover an area where we're approaching the LEL?
Yep.
What are we doing at that point? Is that the question?
Yep. In the approach, you're starting to see your LELs going up. So what would be the first priority? Take care of ignition sources or gas? Some people say gas. Well, that's fine, but you still got a gas buildup inside the apartment, versus ignition sources where things could be clicking on and off inside. So it's kind of, some people say gas, some people say ignition sources. I lean towards the ignition source realm.
Make sure if you do that, you meter inside the box.
Oh, absolutely. And that's a very good point. The next thing, go ahead, Bobby.
No, it's good.
The next thing is, once you go inside, and we've had officers that go in, best radio report you ever heard, because they weren't on air, and they give you a reading of, 10% or 9% LEL or whatever from the bedroom. Now, I don't know what kind of crazy shit you're doing in your bedroom. It's none of my business. But basically what they did is they've walked through the kitchen, through the area where the laundry room is, and they've passed 2 or 3 items that have gas. And it's taken the meter time to finally catch up. So what they're doing is they're not doing 30, 30, and 30 at the door. They're not cracking the door, doing it again before they enter, and then walking in and doing it again. Now, the other best friend in the world, and it is so expensive, is a bottle of soapy water.
Oh, yeah.
Because the soapy water, besides spraying it around the meter where you could have leaks from the gaskets and so on, is that when we go into these apartments, these houses or whatever, we can actually pull the stove away or what have you, spray that whip line behind it and see the bubbling up and just turn the little valve off. And you've taken care of the leak, because most of the time the gas leak is from the stove being pulled back and forth for cleaning or wherever the reason is. And you'll get a little bend, a little crack or whatever. So if you turn that off, instead of turning the whole meter off, you've taken care of the problem. So it's basically, you're like a detective. You're kind of going step by step by step until you find the source. You're working your way from the gas back towards the meter, let's say.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like in the scenario that you gave, like just as an overall, their operations were very flawed. I mean, they performed an action without having sufficient reason for, right? If they haven't found the source and they haven't isolated the source and they haven't confirmed that they have a gas leak, then what are they doing shutting off the gas?
Exactly.
if you just walk in and you're smelling gas without getting any meter readings, why are you shutting down the meter to an apartment?
And the sad thing is I was buffing a call the other day here locally for a department, and it was a gas odor in a strip plaza called in from a business that doesn't have gas, but was next door to a restaurant. And they just arbitrarily went and turned the meter off to the restaurant instead of finding out there was just a simple pilot light that was left on.
Yeah, shutting off a restaurant's kind of a big deal, man. That's like their bread and butter. And for you to shut down an entire restaurant because there's an odor,
right?
I think you're not serving your constituents very well.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Especially if you have a meter in your hand.
Exactly. And that goes back to they're getting this meter training via PowerPoint, via, here it is, put it on the rig, whatever. And like I said, this isn't a meter class, but when we teach this ops review class, we try to impress upon the students is, listen, start off with first warming up the meter, where you're going to do the fresh air cow, approaching the scene the right way, wearing all your PPE, including your mask. And then these little things that I mentioned before, going into the house, the apartment or whatever. An example that I had right before I retired was an apartment complex. It must've been like let's give Kosh a farewell, hazmat calls my last month, because I had like 5 gas odor calls. And the first one was simply 2 people in an apartment not feeling good. And it come to find out the apartment next door, the stupid little furball cat, and I hate cats, sorry, cat lovers, crawled across the stove and just barely twisted the knob enough that it had some gas leaking out for like 2 days. So that goes to my next point of, not only should you be doing this inside the air monitoring, you need to check out everywhere, above, below, and adjacent. And go into the restaurant scenario, I don't care if it's propane, natural gas, whatever, check the drop ceilings, because I've had gas levels high in the drop ceilings before.
All right, there's a couple of really good things in here, like saying that Ron Huffman saying that he tells the students that any reading indicates a product that's out, indicates an explosive product on the outside of a structure. You're done, don't go in. And Charles Kavner says that they outrun their meter, like walk too fast. And I would agree with both of them, more than Charles, but the Ron thing, I don't know. I mean, even if there's gas inside, at some point, somebody is going to have to put on their big boy pants and go and take care of it.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, there are some things that we do that are dangerous. And it's kind of like on the inside of your jacket, it says, firefighting is an ultra hazardous, unavoidably dangerous. We understand that. And that's kind of why you sign up for it. So, yeah, but I would be a little bit more reticent to like be running in there. But that thing right there says that any reading indicates an exclusive product, and that's a good point. That's something that most people don't kind of recognize, is that when your meter says 1%, and you say, okay, do you have a flammable reading? And people are like, no, the meter didn't beep. No, you have
That's
something
it.
flammable. Like it's like being pregnant. You either are or you're not. And
go ahead, Jeff.
No. Oh, I was just going to say, just to tag on to what Bobby's saying about going to we had a house with 100% gas in it. And when I got there, I was like, I've never seen this before. So I asked the guy, of course, this is a gas utility guy. And I go, what do you got? 100% or 100% gas or 100% LEL? Because I'm thinking, and he goes, I got 100% gas. And why would I disregard what he's saying? But our tactic was we go in until we hit 10%, open as many windows as we can, come back out, let it air. Go back in, let it air out, wait, come back out. Because there was nothing to do. It was a house under construction. Yeah. So we had to do something about it. But I'm just going to say this. I'm probably not going to be very popular with this. Although, however, we're all hazmat technicians. I have problems with operations people doing metering. I just do. And because of stuff like this, and they don't take it seriously, a lot of times they don't understand. There are conversion factors sometimes. Generally, yes. they're less than what if you're on pentane, you're at 0.50. If you're at methane, which we're 1-to-1. But stuff like that, they sometimes forget or don't know, and they hand it off to another person. Usually, when you're going to do that, they throw the meter to a rookie or a booter or a probie, and they say, "Hey, tell me if it beeps." And that is a horrible way to meter.
It's horrible.
And I'm sorry, I'm just not an operations meter person. It's just
I am 100% with you, because when I first started doing these ops review classes, I asked a kid. He had an Altair 4, and I said, "Hey, bro, show me how you do your air monitoring." And I swear to God, he had it on a Prusa cord, and he was swinging it back and forth like a priest in a Catholic church. And I was like, no, shit, no, really. And he's like, he kind of hung his head. He's like, "No, sir, that's how I was trained." And that's hand-me-down training. And hand-me-down training is only good as a person who hands it down. And unfortunately, what's being handed down, and this is, I'm going to hurt some people's feelings, but is shit. That's exactly what's being handed down. It's a PowerPoint. It's a meter from whomever, and they're not being shown and talking about the correction factors like you mentioned. And I give them a scenario where it doesn't even beep. And I said, now this particular chemical would have put you on the deck. And some firemen, I can't remember where it was, not too long ago, walked into a house, and when it beeped, they started backing out. And as soon as the last fireman cleared the door, the house blew up.
I'd like to make a couple of just different comments, because I'm watching things that are happening, and there's one really good one that says when you're metering a door, don't stand in front of it.
Good point.
Those pictures do show that. So that is a very good point from, I believe it's Ryan out there. And I would also like to point out, I have personally no problem with doing a 30-second low, middle, and high on the outside of a door. However, I think that's a little excessive, and this is just Uncle Bob here speaking, for actually walking through an area. I think you can, as you're walking through, do high, low, medium, maybe at 5 seconds, and then a long step, so that you don't overrun. That's the whole point of doing it.
Right.
But with that being said, one of the things that I see people do all the time is that, when you're playing the numbers game, the statistics, and you have like 11 billion chemicals in the world, there's only 13 that go up. That's an insane statistic. That is just off the walls, ridiculous. So if you're a betting man, bet on down. You're gonna win, right?
Right.
And so
absolutely.
Well, now here comes the problem, is that in chemistry and in science, there's certain rules that supersede other rules. And so, like, okay, where does propane go? Propane goes down. Everybody knows that. But where does hot propane go? It goes up. Crap. That rule doesn't work no more. Where does cold ammonia go? Shit, it goes down. It's supposed to go up. Do you see what I'm saying? So like when you really go into an operation, don't assume anything is where it's supposed to be. Be monitoring high, medium, and low. And when I say low, I'm talking about inches.
At the ground.
Dude,
At
I'm
the
talking
ground.
about between your ankle bone and the sole of your shoe. In that zone is too high. You should be within an inch of the ground because butane gets so flat that if you're like ankle high, you have like 3% LEL, and if you get to the ground, it's 100%.
Do you remember our infamous propane run in Brooklyn, Bob?
Maybe.
we had our meter probe. My meter probe was at my ankle, and there was 0 LEL, and that fire front went right through my legs.
I do remember that now.
Exciting.
Yes.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it like you literally, I tell people now on the floor, and all right, I'm totally gonna be the douche that pushes back on some stuff.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Get out of here.
Bring it on, cowboy.
So when we talk about like operations guys using a meter, right? Did hazmat for a number of years. Not once did I ever use a conversion factor. Not one goddamn time did I ever use a conversion factor. And I talk to people, they never use conversion factors. And I think the concept of a conversion factor is it's a good to know in the back of your head that your meter readings may not be right. But when push comes to shove, right? Do I really give a shit if it's 150 parts per million versus 190 parts per million? Do I really care that I'm at 7% of the LEL versus 11% of the LEL?
No.
So it's something that the operations guys can definitely do and use as long as it's done properly. And when it comes to a natural gas run, I am, whether it's a practicality or just the way it really is, I don't put my mask on while I'm metering. I will allow my meter to tell me what to do. So as I'm walking in, if my meter starts to go up, then I'll put my mask on. But if I've got 0 readings, I'm not putting my mask on. And my reasoning for that is my very first indication that I have flammable material in the air for natural gas is going to be 500 parts per million, right? 499 parts per million, I'm getting 0 readings on my LEL sensor. So the only way that I'm going to know that I have a minor leak that I'm not going to pick up on my CGI is with my nose. And I know that we're not supposed to metering with our nose. I totally get that. Like, let's just like eliminate ourselves from that like instructor role where we have to tell everybody like what the official book policy is. We have to be able to, mercaptan you can smell in parts per billion. So if you're not getting a meter reading and you could walk into a room, you don't have your mask on, you're going, oh, I have no gas in here. Where if you had your mask off, you would clearly indicate that you had some kind of a odorized natural gas present. It would trigger the operations firefighter to explore more.
Well, the PEL is technically where you're supposed to put on your SCBA.
Right. So that's why I don't just always, if the meter's in my hand, a mask on my face, I try very much to listen to what my meter is telling me to do before I don and doff.
I can understand the whole, listen, professional metering personnel should be able to, use the mask for when they're metering for a reason. However, you have to at least acknowledge that they're like, all right, there is a positive aspect to using senses in certain occasions. I'm not going to be testing the waters with acrolein, where with 500 parts per billion is the threshold when you put it in mask. Before you go, oh, that smells like acrolein, you're dead.
Right.
Like,
well, but the problem with it is, like Mike, you were talking about with the parts per million. I'm assuming you were talking about if they had a 5 gas, with a PID.
No. I'm sorry. No. My thought process was CGI only because natural gas won't pick up on your PID. So if you do all the math, your 1% of the LEL is 500 parts per million, which means at 499 and lower, you're going to get 0 readings, yet you have flammable material in the air.
Right. And
So this,
Ron Huffman just pointed out that the odor threshold for ethyl mercaptan is 20 parts per billion with a
Right.
B.
yeah, it's added in the line. I think at 1 part per billion where it's actually added. But one of the things, and that's a great point that Mike made. If the person was trained
Yes.
on how to use the meter, and that's the whole crutch of this, is that they're not, and they don't have a metering class, and they don't have, I mean, even confined space classes. And I always ask, who's a confined space tech in here, and I get a few people raise their hand, and I ask them, well, how much air monitoring did you have in the class? Oh, they showed us how to turn it on. And what they fail to realize is that that's where air monitoring started from. And so really the confined space guys should be jam up and jelly tight on that. And so the point of the if this is in your hand, this is on your face, is because, and I hate to say it, not to over safe anything, because I hate those terms, but these guys aren't getting the proper training. So
No.
they're going in and waiting for the beep. And they've several, and I just saw where Charles mentioned they had some people that were almost hurt, or actually were hurt. And Bobby, I don't know if you can look at that. 3 firefighters hurt because that happened.
Yeah.
Because they're just walking in and they're using their senses. If they were properly trained, not like we're any great gurus. Well, the 3 you are. I'm just an idiot. But they're not being trained enough on how to use that instrument, and that's the whole point of this, is that there's certain things that they need to do to make themselves safe. And then if they get that additional training, then we could talk a little, a couple different tactics.
No, the
So,
operations level across this country is severely lacking in some really basic things, and air monitoring is one of them.
So I would say, Mike,
Yes, love.
I respectfully disagree with you on not putting your meter on, your mask on when you're metering, because I'm a safety officer. That was my job. My job was to be the on-duty dick, and I just can't get it. I just can't do that. I can't trust. I'm sorry. Sometimes I can't. I shouldn't say I don't trust my guys, but if they said, "Hey, I'm not putting my mask on because I want to smell the gas," I'm like, "Nope, got to put your mask on." That's that's actually our policy. Here's the other thing. Go ahead, Bobby. I got one more thing to say.
I'm just saying, I would absolutely be, if I was the boss and I had engine 123 or a ladder 125 out there, I'd be like, dude, you don't know enough to do those moves. But if Hazmat 1 is there, or some of the 18 that for your department's like, listen, I'm thinking 16, 4D chess here, and you'd be like, all right, you guys are the nerds, go for it, man. Let's let it rip, because they've successfully done it multiple times. The G-pop guys, I don't think I would be in your position, Jay-Z, and say no go. Put on your SCBA.
Yeah. So Jay-Z, when do you take your SCBA off?
When do we take it? What do you mean when we take it off?
When do you take it off?
I'm not. When we exit the structure,
when I run out of air.
Okay. Oh, perfect. When you exit the structure. Okay. So then follow me on this one, right?
Okay.
So you get the situation that's happening before us, the scenario that Kosh just laid out. Those guys go in, they don't get any readings on their meter because they walked into one apartment. They walk out, they take their masks off, they go, everything's clear, we've got nothing.
Yeah. I'm not following.
And then later on, the building blows up, because had they had their mask off, they would have smelt the mercaptan and they would have known, okay, I need to investigate more.
Well, okay, so here, let me preface the way we do things is we enter the structure before the gas company does, and we clear it with below LEL readings. If we get low LEL readings or 0, then they enter the structure and they do a leak check. They go through the structure and they make sure, because they have more sensitive meters than we do, and then they take it from there. We don't send the Southwest Gas, we don't send them into a structure until we clear it. So when we come out, we're assuming 0 in there, but they'll find leaks because they have the really fine meters to find those.
And we do something similar where we have a TCO does what's called a drop test, where they hook up to the actual meter of the complex or whatever to see if there's a fluctuation in the pressure, and then we do have a leak somewhere, however insignificant it is. So when we go to a gas call, Tico is automatically dispatched on the way. We're just there 20, 30, 40 minutes to an hour ahead of them.
Yes.
Every
The
gas
only
leak every gas leak in your area runs that way.
Yes.
Yep.
Odor of gas.
If we have
Everything.
an odor of gas, we determine that it's whoever, Tico in our instance, that's the one who comes.
If we get an odor of gas, if we get an odor of gas and there's no gas, and we said, oh, it was just a little sewer gas coming up, they will respond. It's their policy. They will respond regardless. And I've tried to cancel them many times, and they go, nope, can't do it. But that's just the way we do it.
Now I can
That's just the way
cancel
we do it.
them. I can cancel them or could cancel them if I said, hey, it's a pilot light. It's no big deal. Or
Ours will never.
Whatever the case may be, I can cancel them. But if we don't know and our readings are not showing anything, Tico still comes and does the drop pressure test to determine where the actual leak's coming from.
Yeah.
I don't think most of the operations level firefighters have that support throughout the country, where they're just showing up, checking it out, and either walking away or, like you said, shutting down the meter.
There was a comment by somebody saying they're using the wrong meter. All gas cars should require a meter that goes down to parts per million. And I'm not going to say I disagree with it, but I want to clarify something, that you should be using 2 meters.
I was just going to say that.
Yep,
You should be using
redundancy.
2 separate meters for 2 separate purposes.
Yep.
1 meter is the metal oxide sensor, which is your qualitative, that gives you your leak detector. This is the one where it's saying, hey, this is where it is and this is where it's not. That does not tell you if you're in a safe atmosphere.
Exactly.
Your 4 gas meter, in conjunction with that, says you're safe and here's where the leak is.
Yep.
Right. So that says you're safe. You're in a good zone. The other meter tells you where your leak is. They're 2 different meters. And for anybody that's thinking 1 meter or the other meter is going to steer you correctly, you are severely limited in what you can do.
Right.
Yep. Exactly. And that's why you're seeing a lot of departments that are going to like and I'm not throwing brand names out there, but like a Sensit and then a multi-gas of whatever, and trying to, and there's a couple other different brands that they're putting together. But I agree, 2 meters, absolutely.
I say get with your gas company, see what they're using, and put that on your truck. We use the Bascom Turner Gas Ranger because they used it. It's like doubles as a wheel chalk. It's like bulletproof, and we use the same thing they use. And the only thing with our gas companies, LEL means nothing to them. It means absolutely nothing. They're percent gas only. So,
that meter. All right. So I know the technology that is used by the gas company in New York City is not a CGI.
No. It's thermal conductivity.
It's thermal conductivity. So you could walk into a CO leak, which has similar CO2 leak, which has a similar conductivity as propane, and your readings will go through the roof. So is that similar to are you answering that? Are you answering that question for a technician system, or are you suggesting that for an operations level?
Look, can I add on to that?
Level.
Yeah. So the danger of using the gas company's meter is that they are going to one commodity all the time. Every day it's 5 and 15 every freaking day. The problem is like, and this happened after a fatality for a battalion chief on our job. There was a gas leak and a chief got killed. And our chiefs were like, we need the gas company's meters. They're more gooder. They see between 0 and 100. And ours only sees this little bit of the LEL, the 0 to LEL. And we're like, no, it's not a good idea. And they're like, why is this not a good idea? All right, we'll go down around the table then. Bob, what's the ideal? What's the LEL and UEL of isobutylene? JZ, what's gasoline? And Mike, what's 4-tetrachloro? First off, you got to know what the hell it is. Second off, you have to memorize every number in the world, and so that's why the gas company's meter is only good in really, 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 really small percentage of stuff. That's why, for the sake of this conversation, the fire department's 4 gas meter that reads in percent of LEL, just consider it magic. It always knows what the LEL is. When your technician will explain how the magic works, but for right now, it's just magical. We'll just say that. That's why I'm personally not a big fan of using the gas company's meter unless you're giving it free. Like, first off, it's got to be free. They should be, because I wouldn't buy that shit. And second off, you have to understand the limitations of what it does. Like Mike said, if I go into a carbon dioxide leak, it's going to go screaming like there's a flammable range here, and yet the only problem is it's asphyxiant.
Right. But however, if you're going into a known, we're talking about knowns.
Fine.
Totally different thing. But the thing about our methane specific meter, that's how I like to refer to it as, is that it doesn't really do anything else but that. And because we have so many gas leaks in our area, we take, like Michael Allen said, 2 meters, 2 different technologies. If they're both going off, guess what? And it doesn't really matter for us, like Mike said, or Bobby said, it doesn't matter what the readings are. It really doesn't. If you're getting something, it shouldn't be there. So as long as we get the house cleared out, make sure that there's no one in there, we do evacuations, make sure that it's below the 10% LEL, because we won't let our gas company work above 10% LEL, even though that doesn't mean anything to them. But they are public and they're not allowed to do that technically. We just allow it to get down to where it's workable conditions, and then we let them go in. But that's just the way we operate. It's a lot different than around the country.
And here's the other thing, and I don't want to go down this rabbit hole too far, but this ties into the reason why these departments are giving operational level responders a 4 or 5 gas meter is for these types of calls. And I hate to say it, to prove no ideal H after a fire. And again, in that ops review class we show them, this is what your meter looks at. This is all the shit that's still going on because they're using their meter to come off air.
Right.
And listen, I was hooking and pulling for many years with no mask on, cigarette hanging out of my mouth or dip or whatever stupid shit I was doing at the time. And having lost some friends to cancer, that's one of my soapboxes. Again, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole. So I will just say this for those of you that are listening. If this is one of the reasons why you're using this meters to come off air after a fire, please don't do that. Air's free. I've never seen a credit card swipe machine on the side of a Cascade fill station. Air's free.
Jay, maybe this will be the last one. Jay-Z, this probably you can answer because I think it's in your CASA. Monty Ray K says gas cross sensitivities isn't the same issue that the Phoenix Fire Department ran into when responding to that infamous McDonald's CO2 leak that they had made a video for several years ago.
Absolutely. We invented the problem with, or the finding of CO2 cross sensitivity to our methane specific meter, because it was driving us crazy. I actually called the company, Bascom Turner, and I said, "Hey, is this possible?" And they go, "Yeah, absolutely, it's possible." He goes, "You only get it with high volume carbon dioxide, only high volume. And the problem is you can't quantify it. The meter will just go berserk." Well, the thing is we were kind of stumped on this one. So we had basically an unknown. Went down to the basement. We took all our meters because that's what we do for unknowns. But the thing about it is there was no natural gas to the structure. Not that we ever rule that out, because we look at stuff that can infiltrate it. But after careful examination, we're like, okay, there's no natural gas here. There's nothing around the area that's natural gas. Something's wrong here. And then we figured out because they just had a new CO2 system put in. It was in a basement. So we put 2 and 2 together and figured it out. But I mean, if it always was kind of like in our back pocket, if we ever wanted to check for a massive CO2 leak, we could take that meter in. Because all we're doing is looking for something. We're just kind of like, yes, no. Is it there? Or is it not there? Until we got the CO2 sensors. Then we started relying on those. But it was always something we had in our back pocket. It was kind of interesting that we found that out.
But
Yeah,
just to
thanks for
kind of-
bringing that up.
just to kind of wrap it up just a little bit with this meters and ops level people, they're taking the same meter going into carbon monoxide leaks. They're not having any readings that go, it's a faulty detector.
Yeah.
Meaning their detector, and they're not understanding that the CO sensor in their meter is reading real time, where the detector on the wall is reading over a period of time. And again, the whole conversation goes back to lack of training for the first 2 units that are not hazmat techs.
I love it. Great conversation. The poll is closed. So
we go.
let's poll two people. All right, let's see. How many we have in there? 41. 41. Good odds for those people that are pulling. Here we go. We have 1 to 41. Generate a random number using Google's number randomizer. And let's hit the button.
And this is
And
legit,
it
people.
is-
We're not making this up.
No, I'm not. I'm hitting it. It's number 24. Number 24 is John Larson. John Larson, I will be contacting you. I got to colorize you so I know
Right
you
on,
won. John Larson, you have won. And so I'll be reaching out to you tomorrow and hit the generator for one more time. And it is number 29. And that is Michael Rock. No, oh, I'm sorry. His email address is Michael Rocco Whalen. His name is Michael Whalen. Michael Whalen just won. Second one. So that's it. So Michael Whalen.
He's in the
I thought I
audience
won.
tonight.
Is
I
he?
thought I won.
Yeah, I saw
Oh, I'm sorry, Bob.
Michael Whalen commented earlier.
Did he?
Did he?
Michael, you here?
Dude, if you're here, say something.
Oh boy.
Michael Allen.
Oh, Michael Allen did.
Oh no, I could have sworn. No, Michael Whalen.
Yeah.
Right here.
See him?
Yep.
Oh
Yep.
yeah, there he is.
Yeah, there he is. Congrats,
All
Mike.
right. Michael Whalen. Congrats, John and Mike. Yes. And also I want to remind everybody, one of our sponsors, and we were remiss to say this, is that Northeast Hazmat has that electric car plug, and you have to check this thing out. It actually takes electric cars, you plug it into the thing, the Comasiam, the charging port, and it shuts it off.
Yes.
It's an amazing plug. We did a video on it. And if you're interested in seeing it, we will, you know what? That's got to be out there. I think we put it on a YouTube channel. It's out there. Whatever. I'll find you we did a demo with them, and it's a great thing to do. So I'd like to thank our sponsors, Northeast Hazmat, all the time. Ron Huffman from Responder Training Enterprises, 101 Consultants, Jay-Z, me and Mike. We're all throwing into this thing, and it's gonna be a great time. Looking forward to seeing you guys all out there in Baltimore this year, and the escape. Or the actual entry room. That's what we should call it.
Right.
Entry room. You got to
And
figure out where it is.
And more importantly, you got to buy us all drinks.
Yes, absolutely. So, yeah, you two, I will be reaching out to you in the next day or so with some congratulations and some details on this thing. So look for that email coming in from bob@thehazmatguys.com. And that's it. So go in peace. I'll see you guys next Tuesday.
Congrats, Mr. Monaco, again.
Thank
On
you.
his retirement.
Mikey.
I didn't do anything other than survive.
Yeah, good job.
That's all we ask